get it. That is, yes. That makes perfect sense. Mm-hmm. So that's really interesting because I took some great photos yesterday and I have posted them already on Instagram and Facebook, but I hadn't posted them yet on LinkedIn because I knew I was going to have this conversation with you, of course, and I wanted to figure out the messaging because it is different on LinkedIn. You know, the way what you're saying and who you speak to, it's a different conversation than I have with my audience on Facebook and Instagram.
Mm-hmm. And I think that, you know, if you are targeting, you want to target people who own these businesses, that's the aspect that you look at your question from. You know, is there something unique about the place that you live or where you have your destination experience? Or, you know, are you talking to people like me and saying, you know, have you ever booked your vacation based on your love of history? You know, so it's basically what we're trying to do is pull your audience out to make conversation with you. And I think, you know, just the way you talked about that place already, I'm interested. You know, I'd like to go there.
Yes. It's fascinating. That's a really good way to think about it. Yeah, that's giving me a lot of ideas.
Oh, good. So I also went to your website and had a little look, and I didn't see a blog.
Correct. And my website, yes. And that's one of the reasons why I started using LinkedIn, because I haven't updated my website. My website is sadly neglected. And I haven't started writing yet. You're correct.
So ideally, I think every business who is trying to build an audience online should be blogging. And we talked before we hit record about the miracle morning. You and I are both the type of people who get up early in the morning and do something productive, I think, before the working day begins. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I set my alarm at the moment for 20 minutes earlier than I have to get. My daughter has to get up at 20 to 7 in the morning to start school, or not to start school, to get ready to go to school. So I have set my alarm now for 20 past 6 to get up in the morning so I can come down and literally write something for 15 minutes every day, because it is really hard to find time, I think, to build up your own content. When your day starts, you've got clients to get in touch with, you've got emails to answer, you've got invoices to sort out, all that kind of stuff, podcast interviews to do. And you push the blog writing and the article writing to the side. But that is actually the way that you're going to find more people and get more clients. And I would love to see you putting a blog on your website and writing on that regularly, and then taking that blog post and tweaking it a little bit and publishing it as an article on LinkedIn.
Okay.
And what those articles are would be the questions that your audience that you're trying to connect with would have. Because I think when you wrote in your form, what you really would like to do is to have people sign up for your marketing strategy calls, right?
Correct. That's a way to get for me to learn a little bit more about them and sort of bring them into my process of what I'm looking to do is have a longer engagement with the people that I work with in order to really, market and help a destination or a business grow. You need to understand that. I mean, you need to get into the details. I mean, that's of what they're about. And so I like the idea of having a longer relationship with my clients so that I really can go in depth with them. So the start of that is the strategy call. Yes.
Well, what you've just said to me is a blog post. You would like to work with clients where you really get to know their business and get a relationship with them. That, to me, that's an article. Explaining that to somebody. Because there are businesses out there, Dina, who don't necessarily want that. They just want to hire somebody to say, go and create Instagram pictures for us, and that's how we get our business. And then there are other businesses who are the type of clients that you would like to work with, who want to work with somebody who understands them and who gets them. And that if you wrote an article explaining that that's how you like to work, that's going to attract the right people to you.
Yes. Okay. And you also, you touched on something that was one of my questions, because which was, I read or seen that with LinkedIn, they do like the native content on the site versus linking off to another page or another post. So you suggested, so it's okay to take an article I've written on my own site and then sort of edit it and tweak it and publish it on LinkedIn directly?
Yes. I believe so. And interestingly, company pages, if you have a company page and somebody goes into Google and Googles your company, and if the LinkedIn company page comes up in the results, I think it's the first line or the first 100, and I don't hold me to this, but it's like the first 160 characters or something that will appear in the Google results. So instead of saying, I started this business in blah, 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 that first line on your company page, if you have a LinkedIn company page, will be, we help tourism businesses to do, we help so-and-so to do this, so that it's very clear and makes people more likely to click through to your page. The other place that I repurpose blog post, Dina, is on Medium as well.
Okay.
And then the reason for me to write blog posts and to publish articles on LinkedIn and to share articles on Medium, I always have at the end of my article some kind of call to action which gets somebody onto my email list. So if you imagine, because your email list is quite small.
Yes. I'm not sure I can even call it a list.
But you pay attention to emails. It's like 80 or 90% of people look at their email every day. They don't necessarily look at their LinkedIn profiles or at their Facebook pages every day, but they do check their inbox.
Yes.
And posting articles where, if you said at the bottom of your article, you could write a review or a story that is an interesting read, or publish it as an article on LinkedIn about a client that you've worked with and the success that you had with that client. And then at the bottom of that, you could say, if you would like to have, are your strategy calls free?
They are.
Yeah.
But in order to actually build my list, I probably need something that people can opt in for that's not as much of a commitment as a strategy call.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, it's like a free one-page guide to here's the 10 things you must do in your business if you want to start marketing online, or something like that.
Right, something that is focused on destinations and or hospitality businesses.
Yeah.
I need to. That would be. Do you think that would be a good idea?
Yeah, that is your target market.
Right.
Yes.
And I don't have a company page on LinkedIn. So I'm hearing you say that also is something that might be beneficial to add.
I do, because your company name is lovely, I think. Glowfly Marketing. Isn't that right?
Yes, it is.
It's a lovely name. So people might remember you as Dina. Say you go to a conference and you're chatting to somebody and you say, my name's Dina Pruitt and my business is Glowfly Marketing, and you chat for half an hour around the coffee stand and everything, and then off they go, and maybe they lose your business card, and then they think, oh, who is that person I met? It was Dina somebody. What was she called? And then they think, oh, it's Glowfly Marketing. So of course if they search for Glowfly Marketing on LinkedIn, you want to appear.
Gotcha. Okay, and I will add that. And also, I noticed, because I have that written down, but because I don't have a page, my logo doesn't show up on my profile. So it's just kind of
it's a great
gray.
Yes. There you go. We see.
I was wondering how people got their logos to appear, and now I know.
Yeah, and how you so if you have a company page on LinkedIn, so people can't claim to work at that company if the company page is on LinkedIn unless they have the company email.
Okay.
So, for example, here in Northern Ireland, we have a cancer charity called Action Cancer. And if I worked there, my email would be louise@actioncancer.org. And so if I wanted to say I was an employee of Action Cancer and connect my individual profile on LinkedIn to the company page, I cannot do that unless I have the actioncancer.org email.
Okay.
So, but you will have a work email.
So that's interesting. So I think because I started my LinkedIn profile before I had my business, I don't think I'm using my business email address within LinkedIn. Is that something I would need to change?
You can add it in. You can have more than one email.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So I have my socialbni.com email and I have my old yahoo.com email in there as well. So it's under profile settings. You can just add a second email and you can make one a primary as well.
Okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. The other thing I noticed on your profile was recommendations. So you have one recommendation and it's from 2014.
Mm-hmm.
So the clients that you have worked with in the last year or so, could you ask them for a recommendation?
I could, and I've done some of that, but I haven't asked them to do it on LinkedIn. So is that something that that people are looking at and that you think is important to add?
I do think it's important because if you go to somebody's website and they've got a testimonials page and they've got the picture of the person and then the testimonial text, well, yes, you could read that and think, oh, there's a nice testimonial. But if it's actually on the social media platform, there's no way for a person to fake that or to edit it. Do you know what I mean? If I go to your LinkedIn profile, I can't create a recommendation I can't say, oh, well, Dina and I did an on-air coaching call, so I'm just going to add Dina's picture here and I'm going to write the recommendation. There's no way to fake it.
Right.
So I think it really looks well, I think, having those recommendations.
Okay.
And how it's interesting how you do it, because you send the recommendation request off to somebody, and then they have to write it, and then they send it to you, and then you approve it before it goes on your profile.
Oh, so it's handled actually through LinkedIn?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you go down to the recommendation spot on your profile, there's a button on the right-hand side. It says ask for recommendation, and then it'll say, so there's a box, you say, who do you want to ask to recommend you? So you type in Louise Brogan, and then it says, how do you know Louise? And it'll say, I worked with her, I was a client of hers, I was her manager, she was my manager. It has about 10 or 12 options, and you pick the right one. And then also for me, it'll say, were you a client of Louise's at Social BNI, or it'll mention a previous business that I might have worked at. So you can be very selective and say, so I worked with Louise, I was a client of Louise's at Social BNI. So it's very specific.
Okay.
Because I know that if you started your business in the last 2 years, the recommendation you have there is not really about your business.
Right. It's not. Yes, it's about a job I had, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So you really, not every client will do it. I have sent out recommendation requests to people, and they just, for whatever reason, they might not have seen it, or they might not really know how it works.
Right. And people are busy, and that takes time.
Yes, exactly.
And I had recently sent out, to get some, recommendations, or at least some feedback. And I sent an email with a link to a form, and I sent it to about a half a dozen people that I recently worked with. Mm-hmm. And many of them wrote back and said they would be happy to do that, but only one of them actually did it. And I think that's just a sign of people just get busy. They've got things to do, and I think everyone has good intentions. But So I will definitely give this a try.
Well, the other thing is by emailing them and asking them to go to a form, it's 2 steps.
Mm-hmm.
People don't like to do 2 steps. It's so funny.
Right.
You know.
Well, I had heard that it could be easier also